I wrote in my notes, they do some quick and dirty pointers, and then they discuss balls.
Welcome to Inchworm,
the podcast in which we are inching through Worm. I'm Jenny.
and I'm Ted.
And this time we read Agitation 3.2.
Getting into it. Yeah. Forget about school stuff. It's all Cape stuff.
It's all Cape stuff. She doesn't even go to school anymore.
What was your first impression?
Another of a bit of a, setup chapter. At some point during the chapter was like, okay, but why don't they have a job yet? And it turns out, spoilers for the summary, at the very end, they get a job.
That's true. Yeah. So what happened in this chapter?
All right. Well, at the end of the last chapter, she had just walked out of school. Not permanently, in theory. She's still planning to come back, but I don't think it's likely. After leaving school, she's on her way to the Undersiders headquarters in the docks. So she takes a bus. She's very happy to know that the bus lets off just a 20-minute walk from their place, which actually seems pretty long, but, she's happy about it. So we get a little bit of her walking the boardwalk. We get some context on the town and stuff if you live in the town about, gangs and how to get around. And then she goes to their headquarters, runs into Brian, who's opening the door to her, being like, Tattletale said you just showed up, or Lisa said you just showed up, and I wasn't expecting you. Why aren't you at school? And she's like, nope, change your plans. And so she comes in. He's in the middle of giving Alec a self-defense lesson. I don't know if it's exactly self-defense. It's basic hand-to-hand combat. They're not really in it for defense, I guess, being criminals. So he's trying to teach Alec. Alec isn't very good at it. He's also not very interested, and finally is just like, you know what, whatever. I'm not good at this. If you're going to go easy on me, whatever. I'm just going to play video games. So then Taylor is like, well, why don't you teach me? So then she and Brian get to do a little bit of sparring. I was very excited about this development. I was like, they're going to fight! And then immediately after I had that thought in my head, Taylor says, and I quote, mind giving me a few quick and dirty pointers? Yes, that's how Alec sniggered at it. Anyway, so he gives her a few quick and dirty pointers. He actually teaches her very extensively, and there's a lot that we can get into about, what he teaches her, what she is and isn't good at. She talks about getting a weapon. Most of the chapter is them interacting about combat. And then at the end, they start talking about, who actually is this boss? Brian tells her the boss will get us, will get you whatever equipment you want, so just let us know. Lisa's the one who talks to him. She's actually talking to him right now. And Taylor's like, okay, so who is this boss? And it turns out that Alec and Brian don't know. And they're confirming what we already suspected, that this boss is very sus, pays them to be active, but doesn't really get anything in return. Very weird. So we don't really get any answers. What we get is Lisa coming out saying, all right, time to rob a bank. So they have a job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Like you were saying, not a lot of moving things forward. Some scene setting, some character stuff, and then ending the chapter with a bang.
Yeah.
Expecting a bank job.
Yeah. I don't know that this is a really serious complaint, but it's the first chapter where I was like, I feel like this pacing could be better. There's not really a reason why we had this whole chapter before getting a job. The interaction is valuable, but it could have been in the context of, we're going to be doing a job, you need to know this stuff. He could have told her about a job before she went to school. Maybe that wasn't a good idea because we wanted her to make the choice to leave school without the context of having this job to do. But
I do wonder, I remember reading, I don't know if this is something Wildbow said to us online or that I was reading in an old thing, but he was figuring out how long he wanted chapters to be and how much stuff he could get done in a chapter. And I think the impression I got was from that context was the average chapter length was relatively short and bite-sized in comparative works. And he eventually realized he could
He
do
wanted
more.
longer
He
ones.
wanted to do more.
His work is longer and his chapters are longer.
And certainly it also probably depends on like, oh, if you're super busy, maybe you just write kind of like a quick and dirty chapter, to use Taylor's expression.
Sure, yes.
And then you set it up for...
a very useful expression.
Set it up for the next one. It does feel sort of like a format of like, some stuff happens and then we move the plot forward one step at the end of the chapter. It's like very serial storytelling.
That's what I was thinking. It's very much like we want the punch at the end of the chapter. And I actually think in this chapter, we would have benefited from the punch closer to the beginning. Like, we could have been planning on going on this job the whole time. Yeah. Again, not a really serious complaint. Just, I think it is notable that this is the second chapter of the third arc in a work that apparently Wildbow was completely pantsing, like without any planning. And this is the first time I've thought like, oh, the pacing could be improved. Pretty good. Mm-hmm. And again, not egregious. Like, this was a short chapter. Like you said, it was interesting to watch them spar. And I had a strong suspicion we were going to get a job at the end of the chapter, and so we did. So it's not like I was languishing. Since
you mentioned it, Wildbow commented on, I think it was our episode 0 or something, talking a little bit about that process. And so I've characterized Wildbow's writing style, and we've read a little bit of it. But I thought it'd be interesting to share what he said about Early Worm. Quote, "As an aside from what you guys talked about when discussing length, writing it as a gardened work, part of the anatomy of Worm, I think, is that it was written as something that used the deadline of the twice-a-week serial format to generate its own momentum, breaking me out of 10 years of struggling to get words on a page. And I think this does impact/compress a lot of decision-making points. I hadn't even decided if I was going to have interludes until the end of Arc 1. Was wrapping up the arc, and I remember having a meal while visiting my dad and talking to him about my debates about whether to do interludes to break up the arcs. While writing the first chapters, I still had the overarching serial plotted out as something that was going to be multiple interweaving stories, not just Taylor's. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if putting in the interludes is part of why he decided not to do the multiple stories, or the other way around. Like, this way he kind of gets to have his cake and eat it too. Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating to me that this story could have not been Taylor's, given how much she is a through line to the entirety of the work. It's just a fascinating, I don't have that perspective, contingency. But, and he also said, I'd throw out there the first few sentences of Worm were me trying to get words on the page, not really anticipating audience, the scale of the work, the shape of it, or who I'd be by the end of it, or almost 15 years later. I wasn't thinking of them as the first sentences of an epic-length work. I mean, he did a great job, though. I feel like if he had been thinking of it as the first sentences of an epic-length work, sometimes what you get is trying to do too much. And I feel like this is often the problem with, like, prologues that are trying to intrigue you by, like, giving you a glimpse of the exciting action later. Like, it's not exciting yet because you're not rooted in the world. You're just confused. Yeah. You're, like, trying to follow this action. You're like, but I don't know what's going on. Like, just anchor me in the story. And I feel like the way he entered, like, through this little point, like, a moment in Taylor's school day was perfect. Yeah, And we're sort of talking, this is a lot of, like, meta-commentary stuff. Something that you said in the very first chapter, or first couple of chapters, was, it does kind of feel like YA, the setting and stuff. Yeah. And it's decidedly not. Uh-huh. And, like, I don't think we've even gotten to the point in the story where Wildbow has really revealed, like, this is kind of the story that we're telling here. Oh, yeah. That makes sense to me, yeah. There are more, like, several more shoes to drop as that unfolds. And so... How many shoes does she have? One of the things... Well, you know, bugs have a lot of legs. Great point. One of the things that... She's not bug. One of the things that I... Worms don't have legs, Dad. Go on. Keep it all. Well, we're keeping it. One of the things that I love about the work is the way that it kind of messes with those expectations. But, of course, presumably one of the troubles you have in publishing something like this is if the first novel or multiple novels seem like they could just be a, you know, slightly more realistic superhero YA story. And then the tone changes, the scope changes. You know, it is kind of throwing your reader for a loop in a way that most commercial stuff really doesn't want to do. And honestly, commercial publishing is so limited in that way. Like, you have to be within a certain length. There are expectations. Like, it's really wonderful, the capacity of the internet to share works like this. Yeah. Mostly I'm familiar with it in the realm of fan fiction, which is sort of an established genre of its own and working off of canons. And this is original fiction online, which I don't have as much experience with, but it has the same benefit of, like,
you can just do these things that are right for the story you're telling.
Yeah.
That are artistically what you need and that don't fit the commercial limits of traditional publishing.
Yeah.
I can totally see why. I mean, I can't totally see why because I don't have enough information yet, but I can imagine several reasons why he wouldn't want to try to get this commercially published and why he doesn't want to move into traditional publishing in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did want to go back and say something about the getting words on the page thing.
Oh, yeah.
I just love that so much. I love that this did that for him. Struggling to get words on the page for 10 years when you really want to be writing is just so painful. And I've been there, not probably for 10 years, but like certainly at various points. And the idea of like sort of forcing decisions and forcing a pace on yourself and that limitation being conducive to creativity and to actually doing stuff like really resonates with advice I've gotten as a writer and with various experiences. Like, I don't know if you've ever participated in like a word sprint. Discord actually has a sprint bot. Like if you're in a Discord with other writers, like there's like
I'm sort of familiar.
Yeah, you like start a sprint and everyone enters their starting word count and then this like the bot starts the sprint in like 15 minutes or whatever you've set it to be. Later you have to like report in your current word count. I write so much more during a sprint than I would just, because you're just so focused. You're like, during this time, I have to be doing it.
Right.
You also end up sometimes making choices that are not optimal, not concise, like maybe not what you would have done otherwise. And so it's not the only way that I want to write, but this reminds me of that. And like, it will just get you to get stuff out. It also makes me think of, I think it's Anne Lamott in her Bird by Bird writing book, which is really good. I know a lot of people have read that. Mm-hmm. I think she talks about the shitty first drafts recommendation. Like, you just have to get the shitty first draft out. Yeah. And telling yourself that while you're drafting, it's not going to make your work worse. It's going to make your work exist. And that's so important. And it's also... It is wild to me as a person who is always nervous to put work out until I have at least a complete draft, that what he did was publish his first draft. Like, I'm not saying it is shitty. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. But just that, like, using that sort of like, okay, just get something out. It doesn't matter if it's good, just do it. And then posting it. And then continuing that for 1.6 million words. Like, I'm staggered. Like, what an achievement and what a thing to do. And also have it be good and have it be beloved.
Yeah, yeah.
What a phenomenon this work is.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely agreed. Well said. And connecting it back to what we were saying about this chapter, like one of the amazing things is, I don't know if Wildbow remembers writing this chapter or whatever, but maybe he wrote it and published it and said, that was kind of a lightweight one. But that's the having a relatively shittier chapter, you can immediately improve it.
That's
in the next thing that you publish, right? Like
you don't have to sit there and obsess over it. You can just move on.
Yeah, the iterative process. It's like, oh, yeah, I could have done more with that one, but we're on to the next thing. Now we're talking about whatever is going on with the bank job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Side note, I feel like if I wrote a work this long, and especially if you're writing like 2 chapters a week or whatever, I would just forget what happened earlier on. Like, I'd be like, oh, here's a seed I'm planting that I'll follow up on later, and then never remember it.
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder if Wildbow like keeps track of that stuff, just has a good memory for it, or if he does actually just lose threads he was hoping to follow up on.
I know one thing that he said is one of the difficulties with actually editing the work so many years later is it's all fallen out of his short-term memory in a way
that's right, yeah.
When he was working up to Writing Worm, I think he had several drafts and iterations, so it probably was just kind of like all alive in there, all the things that he wanted to do with it. The sort of like gradual revealing of information and how do you remember like what you've said, and that to me is very impressive.
Sounds really hard. Even making this podcast, like listening to earlier episodes, like editing them or whatever, I'm like, oh, I made that point that like I now have new insight on. I should touch on that. I'd like completely forgotten that I said that.
yeah, exactly. I mean, we have a much easier job.
Yeah, fortunately it doesn't matter that much if I forget to follow up on it.
But yeah, and another shout out, thanks Wildbow for engaging with the podcast and still commenting on and engaging with your fandom so many years on from Worm.
That's really great.
So yeah.
So this chapter.
Back to this chapter.
Should we start by talking about her observations on Brockton Bay?
Yes, some setting info or perspective.
We got a lot more depth.
What stood out to you?
So she's walking through the boardwalk, and she's talking about seeing members of Cape-led gangs. She says, living in Brockton Bay, you learn stuff like that, how to protect yourself, what to watch for, really reinforcing the whole, like, this town is messed up. It's so dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
She says, I knew that the Vietnamese teenagers who were leaning against the railing of the boardwalk were members of the ABB, even if they weren't wearing their gang colors, because the only Asian kids in Brockton Bay that had that much swagger were already part of Leung's gang. Yeah, I'm sure he wouldn't let any Asian kid with that much swagger not be part of his gang. He would crack down on that.
Yeah, I don't know, Taylor. This is something that it jumps out to me on a reread. It's like, this is like racial profiling. And
yeah, but that's what Leung does.
No, I know, but the fact that the setting to this point supports this as
that is actually
as a valid thing to do is there's a difference between this is Taylor's view of it and kind of like this is reductive world building. The idea that this gang leader is so powerful that the racial profiling is rational. Right. Does that make sense?
No, that's a fair point. Yeah. I will say she probably had a more airtight point about, I knew the tattoo on the arm of the guy lifting boxes into the florist's van that read, erase, extinguish, eradicate, meant the guy was a white supremacist because it had the letter E repeated 3 times.
Yeah.
That sounds accurate. Yeah.
That one's safe. Yeah.
But it's also like, I had to look up the triple E thing last time because I'm not that familiar with like Nazi iconography. Like she knows a lot for being 15. Like
yeah, but also it seems a lot more relevant. You know, like if you lived in a town,
right? That's clear.
Yeah.
Like she, like what she's saying. Living in Brockton Bay, you learn stuff like that. Like, got to be street smart or whatever the kids are calling it here.
Yeah.
We also learn a lot about the economic model of the boardwalk.
Yeah, this was super fascinating to me.
The man in the uniform who was talking to a shop owner wasn't a cop or security guard, but one of the enforcers the merchants of the boardwalk hired to keep the undesirables from making trouble. Absolutely wild that this is not a security guard, which, like, you know, is a thing we have in our world. It is someone who, if you shoplift or panhandle, they will drag you behind one of the shops and teach you a lesson. And this is like the setup of the ritzy shops. And apparently the protectorate, you know, if things get too bad, the protectorate will like step in and help instead. Like this is approved by the protectorate, by the government. Like this is basically private policing, except private policing with like openly accepted brutality.
Yeah.
Is there a police force?
Yeah. I mean, you're right on, right? So the norm is private security enforcers. And there was
Wild
another...
that she's like, it's not a security guard. Like, it's, much more brutal than that.
And there's an emphasis, again, that the protectorate is not the government. They're government-sponsored.
True.
But I feel like the private security enforcer model is just a parallel to the superhero model as well. They're like this sort of like vigilante justice where it's sort of like the good nature or well-intentioned funders behind these powerful people will guarantee that, you know, the brutality is only rained down on those who deserve it. Right? Like it's a very it really feels like these enforcers are mirroring kind of what a typical superhero does in a superhero story, right? And the protectorate seemed to be slotting in nicely into that model as well.
But like a much more openly capitalist version of that. Like the superheroes are protecting the stores. Right.
It's almost like maybe a feudal model kind of where it's like the protectorate is like, oh, we'll fly. It only takes us a minute to fly over from our, you know, city on the water headquarters to the boardwalk to deal with any ruffians who've showed up. And part of the reason that we're happy to do that is because of all the revenue the shops generate for the city.
Right. And this is Taylor's view on it, but I don't think we have a reason to think that it's not basically accurate.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the chapter, we got like a view of the tourists sitting on the beach, and I was like, wow, why is this such a tourist town if it's so dangerous? And then we got the answer within a few pages, which is the boardwalk, the rich store owners hire enforcers to make sure that nothing rough happens around the tourists.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy. Like these tourists just come into town thinking, what a great city. And then there's this like carefully contained and controlled seedy underbelly of like villains and enforcers fighting each other, but like making sure it just stays out of the tourist's view. Like,
yeah.
Real dark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see, I mean, your take on the heroes in the story so far is an incredibly skeptical one. I think that this sort of the private enforcer's allegory really supports that view. So it'll be interesting to see.
I was realizing, like, I don't have that many foundational superhero texts. Like, I was never a huge comic person.
Yeah.
I mean, loved the Marvel movies for a few years, then really turned on them. I feel like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, really, really foundational to me. But, like, Megamind and Dr. Horrible are like foundational texts for me. The skepticism of the hero is
that's very funny.
Is strong in my
also
superhero
something
DNA.
else Wildbow shared is that actually he's not a huge comics person as well. Like he read comics growing up and then did get into them for a while, but got frustrated. Like all of his favorite comics that he was following kind of took a dive in the writing or made really bad plot choices. You know, like fridging
it's hard
characters.
When you don't get like a complete narrative written over a short period of time.
Yeah. And he was saying, and I hope this is a fair characterization, he was kind of saying there was an impulse of like, this sucks, I can do it better. So like, but not necessarily.
That's what prompts so much good fan fiction. I mean, he just took it in original fiction direction.
Yeah.
Why do you think Avengers has so much fic?
Yeah.
It's because it sucks and people can do it better.
But yeah, so it's interesting because I'm also not a super well-read comics person. So it's interesting that I guess my expectation was that this was very like Marvel and DC informed.
Yeah.
But
it seems like
possibly
it's a little
only an
less
average
directly.
amount.
Yeah. So then we get to the loft.
Is
that what we're calling it? The loft?
The lair.
The lair. I like that. So we get to the lair. Brian comes down and meets her. He's wearing different clothes than he'd been wearing earlier in the morning. What he was wearing now bore a closer resemblance to his clothes from the day before. Green sleeveless t-shirt, black slacks. So there are a couple of explanations for this. One is that this morning he was trying to fit in on the ritzy boardwalk, and now he's sparring with Alec, so he wants to be in more comfortable clothes. The other is that he wanted to dress up for Taylor this morning, and now he isn't expecting her, so he isn't dressed up anymore.
Interesting.
Just saying.
Interesting.
Could be multiple reasons for him dressing up this morning.
I bet Taylor noticed. Bet some gears are turning.
I mean, I don't know that she put together that reasoning the way I just did. But she did notice him looking nice this morning, and it raised her estimation of him.
Yeah.
Mostly because she's like, oh, he's good at transformation, but maybe also because he looked really good.
She does think that he looks good, or at least comments on his bicep later in the chapter.
There was such explicit description of his muscles in this. I just wrote Brian porn in my notes. It's obviously not porn. But what she says is, he's not big in the sense of a bodybuilder. It was a little more streamlined than that. You could see the raised line of a vein running down his bicep, and the definition of his chest showed through his shirt. Just saying, that's a lot of detail to notice.
Yeah. I mean...
Then they do some quick and dirty sparring.
Oh my god. So that moment is so funny because Taylor's like, she says it, she clearly does not realize what she's saying. Alec immediately laughs at her. And then Brian gives her like a boyish smile after kind of telling Alec to knock it off. What is not described here, but I guarantee happened, is Taylor turning beet red. Right? She is so embarrassed. But she's too embarrassed to even narrate that little bit.
Yeah, she doesn't
us.
actually give her own reaction to that at all.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's so cute. I love it so much.
So we get a lot of really detailed personal combat instruction here.
Yeah,
honestly.
The sparring is really interesting.
Yeah. Very, the level of detail and the context in which the detail is put is reinforcing for me what I already thought about the story, that the fights are going to be really fun to read. He's really good at this sort of putting fights in a context that's interesting, giving a lot of detail about fights in a way that is interesting, sort of the procedural almost aspect of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very procedural. Something that jumped out to me is that even though this is a non-superpower based fight, there's a focus on having good information, right? Knowing what body parts to hit, knowing kind of like, well, you know, if you're fighting someone who's an expert, you're going to lose. So don't optimize for that, right? Like that kind of thing. And on that last point also, this asymmetry, right? If you're fighting an expert, you're going to lose. Taylor is weaker. She hasn't trained. She doesn't have as much upper body strength. She's smaller. So she needs to be smart about that. There's certain things Brian can do that she can't do.
Right. She shouldn't bother hitting ears or teeth.
Right. Yeah. It maps pretty closely onto the way that I would imagine that superhero fights go. And certainly the Taylor versus Lung fight that we saw. We're sort of like, at a certain point, Lung just entirely trumps Taylor in terms of raw power. And she has to come up with other ways to manage that and work around it.
That's a great point, yeah.
They are also huge dorks about it. Alec calls them dorks, or he calls Taylor a dork
He's
earlier.
Been calling Taylor a dork, apparently. She does not like it.
Yeah, but they bond over how stupid it is that the ball of your foot isn't the round part, which I thought was
I
so
don't know
funny.
that they bond over that. Taylor, I wrote in my notes, they do some quick and dirty pointers, and then they discuss balls. What happens is that Brian says, rest your weight on the balls of your feet. And Taylor thinks that means the heels because apparently she's never heard of the balls of your feet before.
That makes sense to me.
She understands like Nazi symbolism, but not the balls of your feet. Hate crimes, but not dance. That's her world.
Yeah, Taylor, I don't see her as a kid who was a dancer.
No, she doesn't seem to. She doesn't seem to have mastered her body in that kind of graceful way. No.
Yeah. I sort of touched on this before. Brian, he has a very pragmatic history with learning to fight.
Yeah.
He said he got some pointers from his dad, who was in the service. Was his dad a boxer?
I think his dad was a boxer.
Yeah. But he sort of has gotten a little bit of instruction in a lot of things.
Yeah.
But again, it's just sort of focusing on the basics and not at sort of mastery for mastery's sake.
Which makes sense with what we've seen of him so far. He is very practical.
Yeah.
And so is Taylor, and that's a way in which they're really well-matched as friends.
And Brian struck me as a natural coach. He seems like really good at coaching Taylor. He's interested in it. He seems like genuinely annoyed, not even on like a my teammate is lazy way that Alec won't train with him, but like he wants to make Alec a better fighter and Alec's not into it.
I feel like Taylor joining the team is just Brian's dream come true in so many ways. She's well prepared. She's thoughtful in the same ways that he is about stuff. She's not going to cause trouble unless provoked, like with Bitch last time. And she's eager to learn. Like this is his dream. And he has a crush on her. It's all perfect.
Yeah. After this chapter, do you see more Brian interest in Taylor? Reciprocal?
I feel like it's still ambiguous.
It's still ambiguous.
I don't feel like we've seen a lot of super clear signs, but certainly there is the space for that. I don't see any reason to think he's not either.
Yeah.
And I do continue to think that they're well matched and that he at least is interested in being friends with her.
Yeah.
Did you think there were clear signs in this of his interest in a romantic way?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah,
no.
okay.
I was just seeing because I think we talked about it last episode, sort of like...
I mean, if I had to put money on it, he is at least interested in a like, oh, there's potential there kind of way.
Yeah.
Or maybe well, he's a little older, so he probably isn't. I think Taylor is interested in hasn't realized she's interested yet way. Just noticing the veins on his muscles. He's probably a little more self-aware, being a couple years older, so maybe he knows that there is potential interest on his side.
Right. Any other thoughts about Alec in this chapter?
I feel like the dork thing is him trying to assert like some sort of seniority, a superiority, because he's about the same age as her. His power is not super impressive. Like, we haven't seen it in action, so maybe I'm underrating it, but I feel like the way they talked about it last arc, it's like not the heaviest hitter on the team. He's physically small and unintimidating. He gives up on trying to be trained by Brian. He's like, wow, if you're just going to go easy on me, like, what is even the point? Like, he wants to be impressive, like, feels a little bit defeated already, like, you know, doesn't even want to enter the field if he doesn't think he can do well in it. And so he's looking for other ways to, like, kind of feel good about himself. And so he's trying to be like, oh, I'm cooler and I've been here longer and you're just a dork. Like he's...
Yeah. Certainly Taylor, I think, takes it that way. Like Brian says, oh yeah, we're going to fight. If you want to like play video games, go ahead. And Alex says, don't save over any of my files, dork. And Taylor thinks, he'd started with the dork thing last night. It wasn't exactly malicious, but it grated.
Yeah.
My name is Taylor, not dork. And I wouldn't do that, I told him. Yeah, I don't want to, get ahead of where we are in the story. On this reread, this, to me, like, I think Alec is clearly immature. He's clearly a little lazy and would rather play video games than train. And he does sort of have this, like, he says, I've got a taser. Why do I need to fight? I have a taser. Yeah. Right? Like, which is...
Such a teenager.
Yeah, it's sort of reasonable. I think I'd probably be on the Brian side in this, but like, if he... I guess he could train with the taser. That's kind of where I'm at. But this, I think, is possibly a different way of accepting a new member of the group. I don't necessarily know that it's punching down so much as like, you're in our club now.
You're one of us. I can.
So I'm going. I'm going to tease you, and like I'm getting a rise out of you, and maybe I'm the kind of person, kind of like a Marco from Animorphs character.
I think it's both things.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, which path he goes down. Where he and Taylor go down.
I feel like him not being willing to learn hand-to-hand combat. Like, I think he's really limiting his potential usefulness as a member of this game.
It could be a liability, depending on how heated things get in combat later.
I feel like the real keepers at this moment, like Taylor, Brian, Lisa, are like the keepers. We can like shed the other two, as far as I'm concerned at this point, in terms of story. So we'll see where it goes. We haven't really had much interaction with Rachel yet. That wasn't, her trying to beat Taylor up. So maybe she'll grow on me. I feel like seeing them all in action in this job will really affect my perception of them as individuals and as a team. Should we talk about the boss?
Let's talk about the boss.
What the heck? They all acknowledge that it's really weird.
They have an anonymous sponsor who gets them the equipment they want. Taylor's like, maybe I should have a knife or a baton. And Brian's like, oh yeah, our boss will get that for you. And the serial numbers will be filed off and everything. You don't have to worry about someone tracing it to you.
I love how she's like, okay, so who is this boss? And they kind of look at each other and she's like, oh no, did I ask too much? Like, no, of course not. Of course you're going to ask who the boss is. That makes perfect sense. And indeed, Brian says, figured you'd ask. And it's just that they don't actually know, which is so weird.
Yeah.
Lisa probably knows. Brian thinks Lisa knows, but when she joined the Undersiders, she made a deal to not say anything about it.
Yeah, so what's your take on this? What's going on here?
I mean, my prediction before was that it is a hero who wants either sort of the very cynical view of like wants villains active in general, has a lot of funding, maybe sponsors a lot of villains like this just to kind of keep the villain scene active. Having seen more of the town, I'm not sure they need that. There seems like there's plenty of villains, which makes me think maybe it is a hero, but like the slightly less cynical version, that having independent villains or like small-time gangs of villains who aren't trying to control a large territory around is valuable in terms of the balance of power. And maybe that gives them levers they can push in terms of keeping the other gangs in check. On that note, it could be that there is a villain. Maybe there's like a shadow villain controlling this whole town, like a puppet master type situation, who wants control of... Maybe they don't control all the, like, sort of the big gangs that we learned about in the Glory Girl interlude. Maybe the levers that they push are these small, more independent gangs of criminals who they're like, hey, do this job for like complex, like,
5-dimensional chess.
Exactly. Reasons. It's like, that's gonna make this person mad, which will make it easier to negotiate this deal with this person. There could be very elaborate things. It does seem like they don't exert very fine-grained control over this group, because it says, he asks us to do jobs, but most of the time it's stuff we do anyways, and if we say no, he doesn't make an issue of it.
Yeah.
So that does sort of shoot a hole in my theory that it's like someone playing this 5-dimensional chess. But I wonder if it's like maybe something about like the economics of the town, or like, I feel like either we don't have enough information, or I'm just not, like, my imagination isn't going in the right direction to like figure out exactly what it is, but like something real weird here.
Yeah, very sus. Very sus. Mm-hmm. Quick other Lisa question. Lisa knows that Taylor arrived.
Yeah.
How does she know?
I mean, I figure she just sort of has a general awareness of her surroundings. Wouldn't you think?
Oh, you like, she was on the phone looking out the window and was like, there's Taylor. I'll go tell her.
No, I mean, her power has a general awareness of her surroundings, you'd think.
Got it.
Yeah.
I feel like it has to be based on some kind of inference, right? The way she described her power was
right, because it's sort of
I could have traced your IP address.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe she was thinking about, where's Taylor? What's she up to? Especially if she's talking to the boss, maybe she's thinking about Taylor and is like, oh, wait, Taylor's here.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's sort of like, Brian said he ran into Taylor, that she was going to school. She's probably not going to really stay at school. I guess you could kind of see.
Yeah. But now that you say that, it is surprising that she had that information when she still doesn't know, apparently, that Taylor's planning to betray them. Though there's still the possibility that she knows Taylor's planning to betray them, but also knows that Taylor won't. Like, she might have a lot more knowledge of the future than we think. She didn't really describe her power that way, but she might not want people to know how much she can sense of the future.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
People act weird. Like, to tell the future is to make it happen.
That's interesting. That almost gets into, like, self-fulfilling prophecy territory.
Oh, yeah.
Of, like, if she knows, will her actions change?
I mean, I'm definitely thinking about, in Scholomance, Al's, like, great-great-great-grandmother, however many greats, has this sort of power where she can tell, if I take these various different actions, what will the futures be? Are there any futures that lead to a good outcome? Okay, I will take this action. Mm-hmm. So it might be that Lisa has that kind of power and can tell, okay, if we ignore Taylor, this is how it will go. But if we get her into the group, she's going to think she's going to betray us, but actually will end up much better. There also probably will be all sorts of bad things that will happen because of that. There are probably bad things in all of the scenarios. And in that case, it must be tough for her. She is in a way taking ownership of having those bad things happen. Like, maybe they're less bad than other bad things, but she's still knowingly causing them, which is a psychological burden.
Fascinating. So does it change anything about your perspective on Lisa if she's the sort of knows a lot but doesn't know everything versus the, like, she is closer to that 5-dimensional chess level?
That would change a lot. Yeah, I mean, certainly about her personality, like, just sort of the waters are running deep there. She does certainly know a lot of things that the others don't. Like, she knows who the boss is, which could be key to a lot of information. And I mean, just in general, the way her power works, she must have so much more knowledge. The way she described herself, it did seem much more limited, but I don't know. Like I said,
information is precious when you're a cape.
Yeah, I mean, always. So, the end of the chapter, they're going to go rob a bank. I feel like robbing a bank was sort of my archetypal, like, thing that this gang does, so it's really nice and satisfying. I think you predicted it, yeah. I mean, I feel like they mentioned robbing a casino.
And so
But I feel like robbing a bank is like we're just getting money and no one has to get hurt. That's like the quintessential, that kind of crime.
Yeah. It's funny. It'll be interesting to see how much of a problem Taylor has with this, because one, she's not spending the money. And I would like to read some lines that I laughed at from Taylor when she thinks about the moral dilemma she's in.
Oh, please do.
I could be spending a fair bit of time at the loft before I gathered enough information or earned enough trust from them to turn them into the authorities. So the convenience was nice. Where she's like, yeah, Taylor, you want to hang out with your new friends, your only friends. Like, come on. And then when Brian is giving her his lesson, he lists off, like, these are the parts of the upper body that you can destroy. Go for elbows. Those are really fragile, but it doesn't really come up, so maybe don't think about it. And then he's like, but now let's go below the belt. And Taylor thinks, it was a little disquieting to hear Brian methodically describing how to break a human being. I saw him as a nice guy, if I ignored his career choice.
Yeah, seriously.
She's definitely doing some, thinking out of both sides of her brain.
Yeah, I think that's also very much the view of the reader. She's the voice of the reader here, where I'm like, yeah, he seems like a nice guy. Oh, he's also a criminal. Well.
Yeah. I mean, how many crimes has he committed on screen? None so far.
That's true. It's all hearsay. We know we can't trust parahumans online. Okay, so predictions. They're going to do this job. I already predicted that they're going to meet some members of the New Wave. I do think, even if it's not members of the New Wave, it's going to have to be some heroes. They're going to have to face off against heroes.
They're not going to pull off a big job without a fight.
No. I mean, we want to fight. Come on. I really hope it's Armsmaster, because that would be really interesting for, like, Taylor to try to, like, give him a secret message without alerting her friends.
Yeah.
And to be betrayed by him, probably.
Honestly, Lisa seeing Taylor and Armsmaster interact would be so fraud. Incredible.
Yeah, Taylor will just be pulled in so many directions. On that note, I hope her dad is at the bank. For, like, business purposes. He's, like, depositing the money for the dock workers union.
No.
And also, like, they can't... Like, they're robbing the bank. They're not robbing the customers at the bank. But, like, if he's there with a bunch of money to deposit, they might be like, we should take that money. And then she's going to be in this horrible position of, like, does she say, no, that's my dad? Like, does she...
Oh, my gosh.
And also, her hair is still outside of her costume. It's really recognizable. And it's burned in a distinctive way that we haven't seen addressed. And it was only 2 days ago, so it's not like, anything's happened to it. So... her dad would definitely recognize her.
Yeah.
Like, your daughter, even if she's wearing a spider suit.
Yeah.
What if she has to run away to not be recognized, and then her new friends are like, oh man, you're such a wimp, and she's like, no, that was my dad.
I love that there's so much angst, so much drama.
Yes.
Yeah. But maybe it would end up working out if Armsmaster is there and she has to run away because of her dad. That could end up working out.
But then the dock workers union loses all that money, and then her dad loses his job. And then they have to live off the money that Taylor takes in by villaining.
Oh, wow.
But she doesn't want to use that money.
Oh, wow.
This is the story I would tell, but I also know there are like 5 more shoes to fall, so I don't know what story this work is telling.
Oh, man. So good. Those are some solid predictions. Probably won't happen next chapter.
Well, no. I mean, they'll have to spend some time getting Taylor up to speed. They'll all have to get up to speed on the plan. Probably the next chapter is like planning the heist, and then maybe the chapter after that, they'll move into the actual carrying it out.
That could be good. That could be really good.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me about some cape names?
Oh, I absolutely do.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Clock Blocker.
Clock Blocker! I mean, someone who stops time.
Yeah. I mean, what else could it be?
There are other options than just stopping time, sort of. I guess Superman doesn't really stop time. There's sort of a super speed thing. I'm thinking of Metro Man also, who like super speeds and like reads a bunch of books while like time is stopped. So there's stopping time for the whole world but you. There's also obviously going into the past. Mm-hmm. Rewinding time a few minutes in order to make different choices. Mm-hmm. There's making other people feel like time is passing at weird speeds, which is like a little less physics messy, and just kind of psychologically devastating. Yeah. So there are other options, but I mean, most obvious, stops time.
Love that. Does the name Clock Blocker tell you anything about the real identity of this person?
I mean, ideally, they'd be a teenage boy.
Just asking.
Yeah. Although I guess they'd keep the name, so maybe they're like a 40-year-old man now. They're stuck with this.
Yeah, I mean, no wonder Taylor picking a name is so fraud.
Oh,
if
yeah.
She's like, if
it's like
she's
getting
out
a tattoo.
Yeah, she's out there being like, I don't want to get stuck like a clock blocker.
Don't want to get blocked.
Vista.
Vista, ooh, a really bad operating system.
This is an Android cape.
Yeah, a Windows cape. Vista, something about seeing is the first thought. Like someone who maybe can like see through walls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like the X-ray vision is kind of my thought. Yeah,
love that. Narwhal.
Narwhal. I hope it's GNAR because they're a gnarly narwhal. Okay, here's my theory on these names. This is the gang discussing, here's how these other villains would rob banks, or here's how they have. Like, Narwhal obviously can walk through walls. So, Narwhal would just walk into the vault.
They're an Australian villain whose name is just No Wall.
Yes. So, like, Vista would just look at what the combination is. Narwhal would just walk through the walls.
Yeah.
Clock Blocker would just stop everything and walk in.
You can keep this going. Kid Win.
Kid Win. This is just one of those names that, like, could be anything. Super Speed.
Super Speed, okay.
Yeah. They win races as a kid.
They win races.
They're basically Dash from The Incredibles.
Yeah. And Gallant.
Gallant. Gallant is a mind manipulation cape. Everyone who meets him is just like, what a charming man, and does whatever he asks them to do.
Ooh,
yeah,
terrifying.
So he's like, hey there, little lady, can I have all the money from your vault? And she's like, oh, of course, and hands over the contents of the vault.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, this is great. Looking forward to hearing about all of these characters.
Me too.
And finding out what happens next time. Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildbow. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.